Hi guys, the Deputy Chair of the Conservative Party thought it would be clever to ask a sort of gotcha question to two senior civil servants on the issue of migration and asylum. Lee Anderson put it to Simon Ridley and Sir Matthew Rycliffe to come up with a number of people who had crossed the Channel in small boats recently and had been deported to third countries. They didn't have anything to give him. Anderson was clearly upset, and this of course plays into the Tory narrative that the civil service is either incompetent or attempting to thwart the Conservatives' plan to deal with the small boats crisis. Have a listen.
I have questions on another topic, but I know Lee wanted to come in. So.
Yeah, thanks, Chair. Thanks, Simon. Hi, guys. Just one question from me. Put foreign offenders aside and Albanians aside, just forget about those numbers. How many people travelling on small boats that's been refused asylum have been sent to a third country or back to their own country over the past 3 years?
I don't think we have. I
think we'll write to the committee with those numbers, Mr. Anderson.
That's staggering. That's actually
so
okay, then let's do it for the last year.
I don't have a number for non-Albanian, non-FNOs.
Perhaps they might be able to help you.
Let's do last week then.
Do we have any figures about anything?
No? Yes.
In the last 6 months, just how many in the last 6 months?
As Simon said, there are charter flights and other ways of doing returns the whole time, constantly, and we can give you whatever timeline
and
period you'd like.
Aside, people who are coming here who are being refused asylum, because I'm sure there's a few. How many was sent back last month?
Have you got incoming?
We'll write to you with those numbers, Mr. Anderson.
I'm sorry, Chair, but I find it absolutely staggering that the big boss hasn't got a clue, not just on this question, but nearly every other question we've asked today. Why is that?
We've got that. I think Mr. Ridley's looking for the numbers, and we will send them to you.
Okay, that's me done, Chair. Thank you.
Okay, so what is Lee Anderson doing here? I believe he's trying to, once again, as I said before, try to embarrass the civil service by blaming them for the Tories' failures. Because when he mentioned here about the big boss, well, the people in front of him are not the big bosses. The big boss is James Cleverly, and before James Cleverly was Suella Braverman. They are the big bosses. They are the ones who are ultimately responsible. Now, it's possible that Lee Anderson deliberately did this because he knew that they would not have the figures in front of them. And it sort of played into that, because when they said we don't have those figures, he doubled down asking, well, what about the last 6 months, or what are the last 3 months, or the last 3 years, or the last few days, or last weeks, or whatever. He doubled down on the question, knowing that they didn't have the results. They didn't have the figures. So, as I said, this is, I believe, is an attempt to embarrass the civil service, because the Tories need somebody to blame. It's not our fault that we're not bringing down the numbers. It's not our fault that immigration is at record levels. It's somebody else's fault. And if it's not the EU, we can't blame the EU anymore, then we have to blame the civil service. Notice he said here the big boss. Once again, the big boss is not in the room. The big boss is the Home Secretary. Now, if he wants to challenge the Home Secretary on these figures, then that's fine. But it's important that if you want figures, then you ask them in advance. I imagine this was a general discussion about crime or about immigration or whatever, but this was not about specific data. And Lee Anderson knew that going into this meeting. So it was a bit of a gotcha question. He knew that they wouldn't have the answers, but he wanted to embarrass them anyway. This is Lee Anderson trying to make a name for himself. And of course, he can, when he loses his seat and he wants to renew his contract or whatever it is on GB News, he can say, look, I was trying to deal with the civil service and they were the problem. We were trying to bring down the numbers, but the blob was in the way. Pathetic. Now, there are problems within the civil service. Probably they're not staffed enough. They don't have enough resources to deal with the problems of immigration. But who's responsible for that? The Tory government. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.